We're going to break in here with an incredible live feed. We're getting images of a small plane down and a rescue that's happening as we speak. Just to be quite candid here, we're still trying to figure out where this is. And our producer extraordinaire, James Brierton, is, I believe, in the process of running the tail number on the plane.
Yeah, so we can see them being lifted up here into a helicopter. The helicopter has a number on it that starts with an N. When the camera was further down towards the ground, and hopefully our audience will get a chance to see it in a moment, Vanessa, there's a small plane on the ground also with an N number, and that is like the license plate, if you will, of the plane. So I just typed that into Flight Tracker, and it looks like we're in the general Miami, Florida area, and this may have been a small Cessna 172M Skyhawk, there it is, upside down on the ground, that appears to have crashed in a obviously very rural, kind of wetland-like area.
That is incredible imagery. I mean, it looked like the person was okay. They had, obviously, you could see the rescue helicopter that is there. They had a rescuer kind of lowered down on a rope, a cable of sorts, and they had a gentleman, you saw him, he was wearing that red t-shirt. They just brought him into the helicopter. He was kind of like waving his arms as they were pulling him up. So he seemed to be quite conscious and well, that he was, you know, moving around a lot and seemed to be, I don't want to say, oh, there's Miami-Dade Fire Rescue. I can see the name. So that definitely tracks with what you were able to pull on the tail number records. But look, I mean, that plane is belly up. I don't know if anyone else is in there, but it doesn't appear as that's the case because the rescues are about to take off, seemingly.
Yeah, and obviously the skid marks, if you will, on the ground give me some indication that maybe the plane had skidded across the ground.
And turned over,
and
maybe.
turned over at some point in that process. And we can see now that the medevac helicopter is departing the scene. So let me show you here real fast. This is, I don't want to lose these shots as the helicopter takes off. So I'm going to very quickly, for our audience, kind of build what we call a two box here. And I'm going to show everybody at home kind of the plane is on your left. On the right-hand side is a map of the greater Miami area. Downtown Miami is in the top right area. And what Flight Tracker is able to tell us, this is from FlightRadar24.com, is that this Cessna took off from Miami Executive Airport just a short time ago, went south before going west, and then does these kind of switchbacks, if you will, over this rural area before it apparently just kind of disappears into this, what we can see from our news helicopter, like a wetland-like area.
I've got a little bit more information as well, James. It sounds like there were two people inside that plane, and the gentleman we saw appears to be the final person they rescued. Okay. They both escaped unharmed. It was a student pilot and an instructor who were in that plane. And I'm kind of going through some of the notes here. They were doing a test flight. There was a problem with the aircraft. The plane went down. They were stranded. So as you alluded to, that area looked pretty inaccessible for rescuers maybe going by foot because of, you know, if you've been to Florida or you lived in Florida for a while, you know that a lot of the area can be marshy and swampy and you might sink if you try to stand or walk through it. So they brought in that helicopter and no injuries reported. So that is some good news and kind of tracks with what we're seeing with our own eyes with the rescue operations that were underway. And the gentleman we saw in the red t-shirt who was rescued and seemingly behaving as though he was not hurt.
Yeah, our news helicopter has left the scene of the crash. That's what you're looking at live on the left-hand side of your screen. I'm not sure if this is the same medical helicopter or maybe a different one. I don't remember the first one being yellow unless I'm just being mistaken. I
think it was different colors from what I think I remember. I mean, that is just incredible. I'm so glad that nobody was hurt either. And yeah, when you look at that flight pattern, I mean, that essentially drops you right in the middle of the Everglades.
Yes, Big Cypress Wildlife Management Area seems to be off to the north. Everglades National Park seems to be off to the south. And just looking at some of these observations here, the aircraft seemed to be hanging out about 3,000 feet, Vanessa, until the last couple moments where it drops fairly suddenly, and it was traveling at a speed of about 100 miles an hour ground speed when it impacted the ground there.
Wow.
So you can see that the medical helicopters too had to fly out to this area and now presumably taking them back to some sort of hospital in the Miami area.
Yeah, I mean, I can kind of see with your map there, it looks like that might be just south of what you would call Alligator Alley in Florida. Is that, I'm trying to see, maybe I'll get
Yeah,
a,
I can make the map a little bit bigger here, I think.
let me see. What's the highway up to the north of that?
Yeah, the
flight
north
path?
is US 41,
Okay,
and to the south
south,
is listed as 9336, State Highway 9336. But
I-
yeah, I mean, there's no roads where this plane went down.
got it. Yeah, I mean, I did a lot of work, for a few years as a reporter in the Fort Myers area, so familiar with Fort Myers and areas south, getting into Naples. And I mean, we saw it kind of visually with the live aerials, but that area in general, kind of between Southwest Florida and Miami, is very much unpopulated. A lot of preserves, as you mentioned, and very swampy. And I'm once again just so glad that those folks are doing all right from what we can tell from all the reporting at this point.
Yeah, lots happening today for sure. And I guess to give a little behind the scenes context, we were watching KGW's coverage like everyone at home, and we
Yep.
looked down at a monitor and went, what is that?
What is that? I mean, I wish we were rolling on it, because that is some image to kind of keep and just, show folks again. If we could, we would, but everything's kind of like live and raw here. I mean, it was the rescuer coming down, attached to the cable, and he had the gentleman who was being rescued strapped to him, and the guy was just waving his arms and just like, I think he was just excited. Like, I think he was just glad to be rescued and thankful. And I mean, that was something to see.
Yeah, and I mean, and our job here at Live Impact News is to take you there as soon as we see it. So there wasn't much that you didn't see that we saw once the feed became available to us, and we'll try to see what more we can learn. But yeah, Vanessa's right. We weren't necessarily rolling on that feed when it happened, but just playing back our own broadcast, we can again show anybody who's just joining us how this rescue took place.
There
moments
you
ago.
go. Look at that.
And so you believe, Vanessa, this is the second of two individuals that may have been in the plane.
Yes. So, the reporting that I'm seeing from outlets in Miami, it was a student pilot and an instructor, and they were doing a test flight. They had issues with the plane, and that's when the plane went down. No injuries reported, which is great news. But they were in a remote area, which required this type of rescue, which we don't always see. In some cases, you see like Highway Patrol sometimes shows up, and they come in patrol cars. But this is an area you're not going to get a vehicle out to where they are, and